Alright guys, second video. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be doing a custom order for trout, bass, and more. We're going to be doing a Crackle baby bass. Basically recreating this just on a smaller scale. I'm going to walk you through step by step on how I do the Crackle paint. It's not super difficult, but there's a few techniques that you use to get that created correctly. So start off first. So basically, what you're going to do is you're going to lay your base color down first. Now your base color is going to be what shows up within the cracks. Black and white will always show up best, but black base coat, white top coat will always show up best. But you can use fluorescent colors and then black, and that shows up pretty well too. You want to stay away from medium tones. Trying to mix those together to do a Crackle, it doesn't turn out great. But yeah, let's get right into it. So the first step, paint your bait black if you're going to use a black base coat, and then white over top. But we're going to use, let me show you the colors we're going to be using today. The first color was a, kind of got a lot of black over there, but it's a Otterborn Sealer Black. That's our base coat. We'll be using that again later. And then our top coat, well, the next coat would be, what I use is a Folk Art Crackle Medium. This is what will be brushed on to the bait to create the crackle effect. And then the next paint will be Otterborn Sealer White. That will be our top coat. And then to create the right colors for the baby bass, we'll be using first Poison Green Candy, and then over top of that will be Tequila Yellow Candy. Probably my favorite candy color right here, the Tequila Yellow. Yeah, so the first step, you definitely want to get that. Try to show you how to brush this on correctly. So you want a fresh brush, and basically what you want to do is you want to put it on thick enough. You want it to be thick, but you don't want it to be so thick that it's just running off the bait. Thickness is important because the thicker the Crackle paint, the better the crack is going to be. The better the Crackle pattern. Let me go ahead and see if I can show you how to properly do this. Never done this on camera before. A lot of people have asked me how I get, such good Crackle pattern. Well, I'm about to give away the secret right now. Just gonna give away all my secrets, I guess. So you really want to get the whole bait coated on the first pass. Don't worry about the thickness there. You're gonna have little bubbles like that. It's not a big deal. Don't worry about trying to brush those out. Just getting a nice even coat the first time around. Whole bait. You're gonna see a little drying there, and that's okay on the first coat. Okay, so now the key to getting a good Crackle pattern is thick paint. So once you get that first coat on, you need to come back and do a second coat. Make sure you get it on even. I realized last video I was explaining some things and I didn't get it in camera. I'm gonna definitely try to do better about that this time. Wasn't quite sure of the camera angle when I was explaining things last time, but I think I'll have it down this time. So you don't have to guess what I was trying to show you. So yeah, so you see how thick that is. That's what you want. You want really thick. So gonna brush across there. See how thick that coat is. even. All right, so the directions on the Crackle paint will tell you to let it dry. I don't do that. Basically, I've always sprayed it when it was wet, and the results are so much better. All right, so let's get that. You want to let that sit for probably, you don't want to let it dry completely. You want to let it sit for probably 20-30 seconds. Just enough time to get our next paint ready. So we'll be, Autoborn Sealer White. Dripping paint everywhere. So this is gonna look like, why the heck is he spraying it that hard? You want to cover the entire bait in one coat. You don't want to have to go back and spray over it again, because that's going to cover up your Crackle. You want to completely cover the bait, and then if you need a second coat, you need to do that immediately. Don't come back after it's dried and try to do it again, because you're just going to cover up your work, basically. So you can see how thick that is. The texture on the bait is completely gone. It's just a nice even coat of Crackle in there, but it's not running all over the place. That's exactly what you want. All right, so here we go. Test, always test before. It's okay if you have little bumps like that. Don't worry about it. All that's going to be perfectly flat by the time you go to clear coat. You want to go back over and look for any different coloring patterns, something that may be a little more gray or not as white as other spaces, and get that covered. And you want to do that kind of quickly. So that looks pretty good. And you can see right when you start painting it, it's going to start to crack. All right, pretty good. All right, so what we're gonna do is, when you do this, once you set your top coat, you want to let this dry. I mean, we're gonna hit it with a hair dryer real quick. All right, so once you get the hair dryer done, once you get it, sufficiently dry, we're gonna have to let this sit for about 30 minutes. If you were to go back and try to lay a pattern on this right now, where it's cracked, that paint is all loose right there. I mean, you can get whole sheets of paint coming right off your bait. So you want to give this time to set. 30 minutes is usually pretty good. Come back after the 30 minutes, hit it with the hair dryer again, and you'll be good to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut to that straight away, and we'll be back and we'll do the next step. All right, so we're back, and we let this sufficiently dry. It's really important that you let that dry completely, to where you can touch it and the paint won't move. It's very important that. So the next step in this process is to add our, let you get a good close look at that Crackle, how that turns out. It's a pretty neat little paint. I really like it. So the next step is going to be to lay down our bass pattern. The reason we can do this now is because we're going to be using candy paint to to go over top of that, and that won't cover it up. It's completely clear, completely transparent. So you can go ahead and lay that pattern down now, get that out of the way, and then come back with the candy paint. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna get these over here. Bring back our soft material that we used in the last video. Now, an S-crank, for me, it's harder to lay a stencil down. I'm not the best at using stencils on hard baits like this, especially with a big curve like this one has. It's you know, it's a fatter bait. It's curvy. So it's a little harder. It takes a little bit more time. You have to be a little more careful, especially with the Crackle. You don't want to mess up the Crackle when you're laying that down. So it's just be careful. I'm not wild about the way the stencil laid out. I usually, what I do is I take these 3 lines and I put them right at the eye, and I'll spray these 3 lines first, and then I'll reposition and we'll do the rest of the pattern. So let's get our next brush up. And for this, we're going to be using the Autoborn Sealer Black. It's colored by Createx. It's just a really nice, black. It's really smooth. It really sprays well. It's just a really good black color. Let's go. All right, try to show you as much of this as possible. The other problem with build baits like this, crankbaits, the bill gets in the way of laying the stencil down. So you just really want to take your time. Make sure you get that in the right spot. Make sure you get it at the right angle too. And like I said before, slowly lay your color down. There you go, those vertical, those are horizontal lines on the bass's face. You got that right there. And now we're gonna reposition and we're gonna get our bass line down. You know, the horizontal line down the body. Just make sure, if you just go on and lay it down, you can end up getting wrong angles. Make sure there's usually a line on every bait. Not every bait, but on most baits, there's a line that runs down, and that's going to be a good point of reference to where you want to lay that stencil down. Kind of center it, split that right in the middle, and you're not going to be too far off from your mark if you do that. So as you can see, that doesn't go all the way down. I purposely didn't spray through that last hole because I want to get it flatter down there and get a more clean line. So I just put it back to where it was. Make sure you get it in the right position. A little tip dry. know it doesn't look like much right now. Go back and dry that with the airbrush. But once we add some color in there, you're gonna be able to tell a lot better. So let's get the next side. All right, so one thing about using stencils like this and going from side to side, we sprayed on this side first. So to get the correct pattern, you have to flip the stencil over and then, do it on this, spray through it the opposite side. But you're gonna have paint on here. Most of the time it's gonna dry. You're not gonna have to worry about it. But you do wanna run your finger across. That's what I do. Some people might clean them completely. Haven't seen a need for that, but I just run my finger across and make sure there's no wet paint. Because if you lay that down on there with wet paint, it's just gonna mark up your bait. So make sure that paint's dry. You can use a hair dryer to dry it. I usually just run my finger across, and it's good to go then. You want to move down, readjust. Again, using our line. I don't know if you can see that, but like if you look at, there's a line right there. It goes all the way down the bait. That's a center line of the body. And you can use that to make sure you're laying these down in the correct location. All right. So we got our second line down there. That's perfect. Perfect match there. Okay. All right. So the next step is I like to do. Let's make sure this is dry. So the next step, we're gonna force this back over. I like to do a scale pattern on the top. And again, you can do this because we're gonna be using candy paint. I wanna clip on the bottom there. Clip on the bottom so you have a nice stable structure, and to lay your scale pattern down. So what I like to use with my scale, what I like to use for my scale, like my mesh patterns, is this is like a sewing, or like what is it called? Cross stitch wheel. Basically, you can secure your netting in there, and it just gives you a nice platform to hold on to, and lay it down over your bait instead of having to wrap it up every time. Now there are some baits that I do wrap still, but when you're just doing a top line like this, this really comes in handy. It makes it so much easier to just to lay down a pattern. That way you don't have to wrap the thing up every time. You just want to make sure you get it right where you want it. I want this to be in line perfectly. And you don't have to do the whole bait at once. So if you notice, I can't get that all the way down the back and the front at the same time. So what I'll do is I'll do the front first, and then we'll move on to the back. We'll spray up to about midsection, and then we'll readjust and spray the back. But this is going to be the same black that you used on the bass pattern. And the same rules for stencils that we talked about before. It's the same for this. You want to spray it light, and go slow. Make sure you don't spray too much paint at once. You just want to be barely pulling back on your trigger when you're spraying through a mesh like this. sure you get everything nice and even. Alright, I had to cut that out. The compressor came on again. Sorry, guys. So yeah, we're in the same position we were. You just want to make sure you have both sides even. Don't go down farther on one side than the other. Right, so what I'm going to do at this point, we're just basically going to lift off. And that's what you're left with. Beautiful scale pattern over the top there. Just adds a little more detail to the bait that, kind of separates it from, what you're going to see in the store. So let's move on to the back section now. Make sure you get that lined up exactly like it was before. You can just spray with from where you left off. Nice and easy. Make sure you don't get one side more than the other. That looks good. Alright, so there's your scale pattern over the top of the bait. And now we're going to be adding some color in. Let me clean out these brushes. I'm going to cut this out. I realized the last time in the video, cleaning the brushes took forever, so I'll be cutting that out. We'll be back in, when we're ready to add some color. All right, so we're back. Got the brushes cleaned out. Next step is going to be our candy poison green. We're going to cover the midsection, top, and other midsection of the bait. Get it completely covered. This time I am going to be, you noticed in the last video, talking about carriers, like the UVLS clear. I have my Creos brush, my fine detail brush. I'm going to be spraying this without a carrier this time. A few drops in there. I highly recommend that, the new guys not do this. It takes very fine trigger control. If you try to spray it, too fast, too hard, it's just going to blow out. Your bait's going to be ruined. So stick to the carrier. My brush is kind of wanting to be a little pain today. You can see I'm barely moving my finger when I'm spraying this. I mean, it's just It's the finest movement possible. All right, so yeah, let's get this back in over here. All right, so first color down. I'm gonna spray that out. Our next color is gonna be a candy tequila yellow. Just clean this out real quick. I just like blending these two colors together for my bass. I think it looks amazing. You want to go very light with the tequila yellow. I'm just going to go over top of what we did. Just very lightly. See that color start to change a little bit? That looks good. All right. So our next step, I'm using one more color I didn't mention before. Show it to you in just a second. So basically it's going to be a Wicked Detail Sepia. It's also made by Createx. It's a detail color, so it's transparent, but it's just adds a lot of depth to a bait when you add it to it. Something stuck in the end of my airbrush. Have to clean that out. All right. So this is the color we're going to use next. It's like I said before, Wicked Detail Sepia. It is made by Createx. So we're going to get our forceps off again. Throw soft material back down. And with this one, may not need it. It's got so much texture up there already. Let's get a couple sprays of it. Kind of darken up the eye a little bit. We're gonna bring back our fabric from the last video, just to add some texture in. I'm gonna do some around the eye, and then these large gaps right here. You know, we're gonna fill in with a little bit of texture just to, so like this one, on this side, it's got cracked there. So it has me second guessing myself whether I want to add that or not, because it doesn't really need it on that side. You can't really control where the crackle happens. You know what? I think I'm going to leave it the way it is. No, we're going to do it over the eye. Over the eye. Sorry, I'm so indecisive. very lightly. Just drying it now. Yeah. Darken up that eye slot a little bit. Just go right around the edge of the eye. It just adds a little darkness there. That's good. And once you put the eye in there with the darkened eye slot, it's really gonna pop. So you'll see guys painting in their eye slots. All right, that's pretty much it. Let's get some eyes in there. So this eye slot is a little funky in that, you know, it's really a 6mm eye slot, but the way that it's shaped, you know, I've used all the way up to 8mm eye slots before. I mean, eyes before. But on this one, I think I'm going to use a Divine Halo there. Really love this eye. Again, you can get these from lurebuild.com as well. And they come in all sizes. So yeah, it's really, really high quality eye. But on this one, because of the shape of the eye slot, we are gonna have to super glue these in. So I'll show you how I do that. Because the last thing that you want when you're clear coating a bait is to have the eye come out when you're clear coating. It's a nightmare. So if you're unsure about the backing, if you're unsure about the slot, definitely go ahead and do that. Get that super glued in, because you definitely don't want to have to be dealing with the eye swimming around in clear coat while you're trying to get it done. I like to use and it's just Gorilla Super Glue gel. I like to use a gel because it doesn't run all over the place. And you just want to use the tiniest of beads. I'll try to get this on camera as best as I can. Just a tiny bead. That's enough right there. See what got in there? That is all you want. And what's left right there, I hope you can see that. May not focus. Just dab that into the slot. That is all you want. Hopefully you can see that. It doesn't take much. You don't want the super glue squirting out on the sides. Just take it. Make sure you get in the right position, right where you want it. Just press and hold. That's in. Not going anywhere. Same thing for the other side. The backing on these eyes is strong enough if it was a different eye slot. With this eye slot, it just makes it a little bit more difficult the way it's shaped. So you always want to super glue an S-crank eye in. All right. So one more thing I'm going to show you while we're on camera here. That's the bait pretty much done there. Turned out pretty good. Trout, bass, and more. Hope you like the video. Hope you like this bait. Definitely a fish catcher. But one more thing I want to show you. Sometimes when you're doing Crackle, and you have a bill like this, and you have to tape the bill off, the Crackle paint will attach itself to the tape, because the way you're brushing it on, and you'll get this layer where it's attached. All right, guys, sorry about that. Didn't realize my camera storage had run out. Basically cutting off the video. I apologize about that. Just wanted to show you the finished product up close. Yeah, it turned out really nice. Got all those nice Crackle lines in there with the baby bass pattern over top. I think it looks really good. But anyways, I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you for subscribing. And we'll see you next time. I appreciate you.